About 2.5 months ago, I planted exactly the same potatoes in 4 beds. The only difference was there was different mulches in each bed, and I wanted to find out which mulch will grow us the best and biggest potatoes. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the homestead. Like I just said, this is an experiment in planting potatoes to find out which mulch will give us the best harvest. And in a couple of weeks, we're now in the middle of August, we're going to find out what the harvest looks like. As you can see, the potato plants are looking quite tatty now. And but before we do that, we need to go back and find out how I built the beds and what mulch I used in each bed.
Okay, so this is the garden where we normally plant our potatoes, as well as our garlic and beans and this year's sweet corn. So the first mulch I'm experimenting with is wood chips, and before you launch into the comments, I'm well aware of what people understand about wood chips and the way they react with plants in terms of depriving them of nitrogen. But as we have a lot of wood chips here and we make them ourselves, I thought it would be an interesting mulch to use to see what the results would be ourselves and to demonstrate to you. So we made one of the rows from wood chips, and we will put the potatoes into that. The second mulch we're using is homemade compost. This compost we made for a few years. I tend to layer it with organic material, and when we had pigs, we had pig manure, and that's what's developed here. Nice and black, as you can see, hopefully full of nutrients. So the third mulch we're using is our duck shed, or coots as it's called in Latvian, leaf mould compost. So basically for the last 30-40 years, Gita's dad and granddad have used leaves rather than sawdust in the duck shed. Leaves is an abundant resource we have here living in the forest, so over the years they've been layered on, and there's about a foot, 30-40 centimetres deep seam, if that's the right word, layer of this duck shed compost, and we've used it in other places and we get really good results, so we thought we'd try it here. It's quite an effort, as you just seen. We have to dig it up and crush it and with our hands to be able to use it. So now we're going to, I'll just level out all the rows using a rake, nothing too technical or complicated. I'm trying to treat every row exactly the same, so the only variable really is the mulch that's in here. So we can have some kind of, it's not exactly scientific, but some kind of good results. Now the fourth bed is our normal bed where we use straw or hay, and in this instance I've used some hay by the look of it. And what we've done this year, the reason I'm hesitating is because we've moved from hay to straw this year, so we may have had a little bit of hay left, and we also used the weeds which are around us, but nevertheless this is essentially a medium which is some kind of organic matter which is not composted down. I guess that's the main difference. Be it hay, be it straw, be it weeds, whatever we've got around us. The sort of traditional roost out method.
Okay, so I've got 3 varieties of potatoes divided by, spread across the 4 beds. So a third of each bed for each variety. We've got Soraya here. This one is last year's potatoes of our own, and the last one is a mystery potato. But they're all similar sizes. I mean, many people here mix the potatoes up, and you have all sorts of varieties. So even though the name of one is something, I suppose. Anyway, I'll sort these out now, and then we'll start planting these into our 4 beds over there.
So now we can really see the development of the potato plants and the difference in the colorations. What we can see here on the left is the darker green here of the leaf mold compost, and here we can see the straw, our control bed, lighter green, and these are our normal compost, so that's similar colour, but there's quite a distinction between the leaf mould and this compost. And of course our wood chip, to be expected, very poor development, very deprived of nitrogen plants. Unfortunately we were struck with some Colorado beetle, but we got off quite lightly compared to neighbours around us and other people in the country, so we feel quite pleased about that, and we think it's possibly because we do have a lot of grasshoppers around, and I know grasshoppers do eat the larvae of the Colorado beetle. Okay, it's September the 13th now, so it's time to harvest the potatoes. Last year we did it a couple of weeks later, but we're expecting a lot of rain over the next week, 10 days, so we thought we'd get it done today. And then it's done. In fact, these are the last potatoes to be harvested. Everything else across our property has been done. So we've got our potato crates, and I've rigged up one with a harness so that I can weigh it, and I've got some electronic fishing scales. I've already weighed this setup, so I know how much it weighs to get the tare weight. So when we weigh the potatoes, I know how much is really in there. So we'll start, I think, with the straw bed, which is our control, really, is how we've always grown them, and then we'll move on to the other 3 beds and see what we've got there. Here's our crate from the hay bedding. Oh, is it straw? I need to remember now. Anyway, 3/4 of a crate. That's pretty good. Some really nice sizable potatoes. Very few small ones there. One rogue red one, which I might take out because we didn't actually plant that this year. That's from last year. Okay, and let's move on to the second bed. Okay, so here's the harvest from the duck shed poo compost, leaf mould compost, whatever you want to call it. Looks a lot more, but you know, we'll judge it by weight when we get to it. Okay, here's the results from the regular compost that we made ourselves. I can say it was much drier inside than the first
duck shed compost, and so there were a lot more smaller ones, but still some good sized potatoes and a good yield overall really. Again, we'll wait at the end and see what comes up best. And here is the harvest from the wood chip bed shoulder. I think it was a foregone conclusion this was going to be the case. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Some good, medium-sized potatoes in there, and very few small ones, which is an interesting observation. The wood chip did keep it quite damp underneath. Right, that's all our harvest done, so what we need to do now is go and weigh them. Okay, so that's all the weighing done, the results are in. What was the outcome? So, smallest harvest 3.9 kilos, then 28.3 kilos, 33.8 kilos and 36.3 kilos, but which is which? So, not surprisingly, wood chips was the smallest, then our control straw, then compost, and then the duck shed compost. But what do we conclude from these results? Well, if you look at things like effort, how much effort it was to set up each bed, we need to look at the fact straw is what we normally do, and we've only got to really rake up the straw, something we do anyway, or hay, or the weeds. It's a job we do here anyway, and just put it in a different place. Duck shed compost is first of all, is a finite resource. There's only so much in the duck shed, and we have to dig it all up, crush it all up, and then spread it all out. It's a lot heavier than straw, although it did retain quite a bit of moisture, and probably the average size of the potatoes were a bit bigger, but it only gave us 8 more kilos than the straw. So is an extra 8 kilos worth all that extra effort and using that duck shed compost, which could be used on something better? Same goes with a homemade compost. We can only make so much per year, and for the sake of 5 and a bit more kilos, is it worth using all the compost on a row of potatoes when we could be using it elsewhere in the garden? And obviously the wood chips, well, we've already discussed why that didn't work, although I'm left now with a kind of a mix of wood chips and soil, which I can throw back into the chicken shed, and when we get the chickens, they will rummage through all that and poop all over it, and then make it into a really good resource. So, but a lot of effort to make wood chips. In fact, you've got to have all the wood, you've got to run it through a wood chipper, which runs petrol, for a very small outcome. So I think it's a really interesting exercise, but in conclusion, I'm really tempted just to continue using straw or hay. It's a lot easier, and yeah, the results were a bit smaller, but we could easily do more rows to build up the quantity with very little extra effort compared to the other mulches. So I think, like I say, interesting exercise. Take from it what you will. I hope you found it interesting. If you've got any comments, if you use different mulches in your own context, then leave them in the comments below. I'd be really happy to engage with people on this one as to what the results were like. Is there anything you thought I did wrong? Please do say. I'm always happy to take some criticism. So that's the end of the video. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if at any point you did enjoy the video, and I look forward to seeing you on another video very soon. Bye for now.